Welcome to Big Blend Radio. Today, Nancy and I are so excited to welcome best-selling and award-winning author Eva-Shaw. She's joining us to talk about her writing, which she's written over 100 published books. She's
That's
a ghostwriter
crazy.
and author. She teaches writing at over 4,000 colleges and universities around the world. Like, I don't ever want her to read my writing. She'll be like, no, I'm kidding. But she is really awesome. Her writing and what she does is prolific. Go to her website, Eva-Shaw, that's S-H-A-W. See, I can spell Eva, evashaw.com, and check out her latest release. It's called The-Seer. So welcome. And you know what? I want to say welcome, Eva, but your title, as soon as I saw the title, we're like, well, we have to have her on the show. And then I started reading about it. I'm like, oh, we need to get her on the show. So, but welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Well, I'm delighted to be here. What fun. I love doing these and meeting people and talking about writing, talking about my book.
Thank you. Thank you. And you're in one of our old hometowns, Carlsbad, California. Beautiful.
Isn't that cool? It's gorgeous. I just don't know how I tolerate this perfect weather, but I do.
It's a beautiful area. In fact, our magazine got started just down the road. Up and down the road, we started our magazine. Next year will be 25 years as a print magazine out of North San Diego, just covering North and Encinitas, Carlsbad, Vista, Escondido. That was our just Oceanside. Can't leave out the O side.
No, you gotta have the O side.
And wow, has that built up or what? That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, downtown there by the wharf is absolutely gorgeous. Yes.
It's really done like a, 180 degrees. I say it 180 because it was beautiful to begin with, but it's really become quite a destination. So do you go people watching there ever?
Oh, I love the beach. I love Carl's. The little downtown Carlsbad is absolutely charming. And ice cream is good. Cafes are good. Little shops are good. It's a nice place to live.
It really is. It really is.
You never know what's going on in the back rooms of those restaurants and ice cream shops. You never know who's deciding to take somebody out.
We want to know if you're eavesdropping for your books.
Oh, always. Don't all writers eavesdrop?
You should.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Absolutely.
It's totally fun. The-Seer, this is exciting because you're writing about New Orleans and Nancy's in love with your book. And I'm like, don't spoil it for me. Don't. But New Orleans, and I think the state of Louisiana has some of the most fascinating history of our country because it was like a hotbed of things changing, just the Louisiana Purchase and the War of 1812, World War II. That's something, well, I'm excited about this because places we've been in Louisiana is where they did the Louisiana maneuvers. They were training for World War II. Right. All up through Kisatchie National Forest. So kind of we're in the area, what we've covered, not as much New Orleans, but we love New Orleans, has been what's called no man's land, where for 3 years there was no law and order because of when the Spanish Treaty happened to 1812 to suddenly, yes, now we're America. The news took so long to get there. No one had law and order. And so every, privateers or pirates, as you want to call them, could buccaneers and privateers could bring in things and go into the swamps. All kinds of things happen. So to me, Louisiana's just got this mysticism, and I love that you bring in a psychic, or should I say a professional liar, and World War II history. I mean, this is, and Chinese medicine, but that is New Orleans. I think that's what it is about that state and that city.
It's magical, and people who haven't been there are missing a great American city. I compare New Orleans to an elderly aunt who wears way too much rouge, way too much lipstick and perfume, and you're going to get in trouble when you visit, and you wait to visit her. And the food, I think it's against the law to fix a bad meal in New Orleans. I've never had a bad meal there.
So how many times have you been there for The-Seer?
Oh my goodness. Well, The-Seer germinated, I would say, on one of my many trips. I've had the pleasure of ghostwriting and knowing a number of people in New Orleans and writing their life stories. And I continue with a gentleman now. And so I've, over the last 20 years, countless trips. And each person I met, whether it was a server in a cafe or one of my clients, would just add a little bit to that mystery of the city. And The-Seer could not have taken place in any other city than New Orleans. It became like another character, and it led the plot as it went along.
I love that it starts out at ghostwriting, but you do talk about that in the beginning of the book and the forward and the introduction of it all. Tell us about your two main characters.
Well, Beatrix Patterson is searching for something. I don't want to give the plot away, but she's searching, and she finds that the way she can make a living is pretending she's a psychic. But actually, she's just very good at reading people. She watches their clothing, watches how they talk, even looks at their shoes. And then she is able to read the clues that we all give out, body language clues and about us. And in that way, she's able to make a living to support the quest that she's on. And Dr. Thomas Ling, I just love him. I think he's my favorite character, although people have said I'm a lot like Thomas Ling. I don't know why, but he is looking for adventure and takes on the role of being a courier for a secret treaty and gets himself into such a pickle. And they just realize they can work together, both for their own ends, but to help each other. And this is at the height of Asian racism, right after Pearl Harbor. And of course, I wasn't live, nor were you all, but we know about that. And so that throws another concern in the mix as they seek out Nazi cells and saboteurs and get involved in kidnappings. I mean, it's a fast-paced book.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, Nancy, I couldn't believe it. Nancy, I was like, you've got to check this out. It's The-Seer. I see the name The-Seer, and then it's a psychic, and I'm like, World War II and New Orleans. I'm like, who doesn't want to read this? And it gave it to her, and she snatched it up because she's known on our shows, and I'm going to give it away as Hot Mama Babushka. And sometimes she goes from being Russian to Chinese, depending on how, you know, if she's had a glass of wine on these radio parties.
Where'd you go?
So, Eva, I think it's so funny because a lot of times Nancy on radio shows performs as Mama Babushka. And this was back in the day where we did
hot Mama Babushka. You have to say hot.
This is on our live audio only shows, and now she's totally revealed. You know, but anyway, she plays psychic, and throughout our actual history, in some way, Nancy has been a psychic, like festivals, just as a joke or whatever. But people have fallen for what she said and believed it. I mean, we've even had advertising clients call us the next morning saying, all right, I'll take a bigger ad. This is how much.
Because I told them to.
And then she's like, no,
it was
just a joke. No. We've had in her magazine, when we had a magazine in South Africa, she had we used to write our own horoscopes, call them the wacky scopes. And she said, beware of a three-legged dog that comes to your door. A friend from England called. This is way back when. And when someone calls you from England, that was expensive. They're like, you're not going to believe it, but a stray three-legged dog arrived at the door. So this is why Nancy gets to be Hot Mama Babushka. Sometimes she's Russian, sometimes she's Chinese, and the accent, it doesn't matter. But it's become a thing. And so when it came out to Beatrice, I'm like, Nancy, but I think this may be you.
Well, because she's watching the people's faces, and I used to do face painting at street fairs, and so
for Helen Woodward Animal Center, just down the road from you.
And so I look at people's faces, and then so pretending to be a psychic was easy because you do look at their face and you can see, oh, I just gave you good news or bad news. I'm totally making it up, but somehow in their mind, they change it to what they want to hear.
That's what
It's so weird.
Yes, yes.
It's weird.
I did a lot of research on fake psychics and learned their techniques, and it's fascinating. I find people so fascinating.
It's
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Fake psychics. So what is this that they okay, so salespeople, they always think salespeople are yours. I sold cars for a month to figure out how bad is it. I was just bored, but you learn the sales techniques and sales, and people are scared of salespeople. They're like, oh, you're out, the snake oil salesman, right? You're out to get us. And there's a fear in there. And it basically salespeople, all of the, they're really trying to help, but they learn how to read people. So it's kind of psychology that goes into it, right? And so is that the same for these fake psychics?
As far as I can tell, yes. And it is the psychology behind telling people what they want to hear, or letting them hear things that they might want to hear. Yes. And another thing that's fascinating to me is both Beatrix and Thomas, the main characters, are both lying about things. And I'm fascinated by why people lie to make themselves better, achieve goals, hide their embarrassment, and all of those things. So it adds another dimension. I know my characters pretty well, and that makes it fun to watch them and see how they react to things.
Oh, wow. So how do you,
so cool.
I mean, I think about how many books you've written and published. I mean, that's over 100 is a lot. How do you have a bunch of voices in your head when you go to bed? What's going on? Like, do you have a big party going on upstairs?
Actually, a number of years ago, speaking of voices in my head, I was giving a workshop on this, on talking to characters. And I tell writers in my classes to talk to the characters. And afterward, a psychiatric nurse came up to me and he said, honey, if you're hearing voices, you need to get help.
That's so
or go
funny.
see a psychic.
That's funny. Yeah, really.
Psychics hear voices.
I guess they do. Yes. No, I don't consider myself psychic in any way, but I do love people and I love to hear their stories. Everybody has a story.
Right.
It can be dangerous to tell a writer your story, however, because you may just end up in a book. But
True.
I enjoy the writing process and I enjoy talking about it. And I have young friends who just come over. We talk about our imaginary friends. And I try to encourage them to be
imaginary friends. Now, now someone's going to go, you were supposed to drop that when you were 9 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't yet.
Well, they say if you have an imaginary friend that you're seeing a ghost.
Ooh. But you'll never be lonely.
That's cool.
Well, that's the whole thing about New Orleans too. Don't you feel that that's kind of like a spiritually historic place? Just
it is. I've taken some of those tourists walking around the French Quarter, food tours of New Orleans. I love it. And yes, and Mardi Gras, and I've been on the streets at Mardi Gras. It's alive with history and
and diversity, where it seems so harmonious, the whole state. And well, there's going to have its own things here and there, but there's a harmony of culture there that I think we can learn from.
I think so too. And even before the Civil War, there was harmony there. And then things were disrupted, of course, but people just love people. And there are so many good people in the world. You know, we watch the news and think, oh my gosh, hell in a handbasket, but it's not true.
Now, I think that a place like New Orleans, and there's several other cities that somehow attract creative people. So there's music and there's art. And when there's music and there's art, people tend to get along.
Yes. Yeah.
And good cocktails and beignets.
Of course, that's an art.
Yeah, good drinking.
That's an art,
It is.
It is an art. But I mean, I think it's really true that where people that are creative, and I believe everybody has some creative ability in them, and either shut off by telling themselves they don't have it, or they just haven't found what their creative thing is.
Mhm.
Because they think, oh, I have to be a painter or a musician, and there's so many different ramifications to art, that it could be culinary arts, it could be so many different things. So they're creative, they just haven't recognized it yet.
Absolutely. And during this pandemic, I have taken up the banjolele, which
Oh,
is
wow.
like a banjo hybrid of an ukulele as the
Nice.
banjo. And I'm not
Cool.
very good, but I have, speaking of music, I have a great time making music.
See?
I
See,
never thought it was musical.
See? Now, do you think lying is an art form?
I
yeah.
think so. I have known some chronic liars, and the ones that get away with it are very good. I also know some who are very bad liars. The next time I see them, oh, you didn't go to China for the weekend, did you? You know, one of those things.
Well, yeah, you know, Nancy and I did in-sitting for a few nights and days where we made breakfast, cleaned rooms, checked in guests, talked with guests, did the whole thing. And I thought of you the whole time because you knew we were doing this, and I was like, all writers should do this.
Yeah.
Then I was like, do I ask them if I can take their photos? Because how do you know if this couple is really married?
Who they say they are.
You know what I mean? And there were honeymooners there. We met so many different characters and awesome people. They were really nice, but there was that Nancy immediately was like, I want to stage a murder mystery.
Because you have people who've never met each other, and they're all having only one meal together. Okay, they're having breakfast, they all go off to do their own thing during the day, but they're all sleeping there at night, and nobody knows each other, and it's much more intimate than a hotel.
Absolutely.
And so I was just thinking, dude, this is drama. We could totally do a murder mystery night.
Ooh,
that'd be so cool.
Yeah. Now, do you write a lot of mystery? I mean, and you should go in-sit. I'll clean the room. You could just be like the overseer. You don't have to clean the rooms, but you should have like your hand in something, because there's just something that changes the whole, the pressure. You get the pressure. They're coming by 3. That room needs to be clean. It doesn't matter how many stairs you have to go up. You've got to get it done, and then it's like, oh, okay, welcome to your clean room. And then, so there's something where you're checking people in, everyone's I just think everyone should, but would you do it before we get into the mystery? Would you ever do that too?
I would definitely, what fun that would be.
Yeah.
So yes, and leave clues around. Oh my gosh, it would be fun.
The stories are amazing.
Yes, I love to meet people when I stay at bed and breakfast, because like we talked about, everybody has a story, and especially those that let children come in. Children will tell you anything in the world.
Oh, yeah. Their imaginary friend. She wants to meet their imaginary friend. Do you write a lot of mysteries? I mean, you've got 100 books, so it's, there's a lot of bestsellers. Everyone go to Amazon too. You can get them there, but a lot of is mystery, and you've got faith-based books as well.
Please find me on Facebook. And I'm not the supermodel or the famous DJ. I had my Eva-Shaw name first. I want them to know that. But yes, I have written 2 other mysteries, and the first one, Games of the Heart, was number 3 on Amazon's best novels for at least 15 minutes. So I took a screenshot of it,
Yay! That's pretty good, though. I mean, that's hard to get.
Thank you. I'm working on a sequel to The-Seer, and so my characters are still talking to me, and they're still getting themselves into all sorts of scrapes. And this time it's going to be located in Santa Barbara, because I spent part of my childhood there.
Cool.
And, I know it, there's the ocean and the mission and a good diverse population, which always makes it fun.
Oh, yeah. Santa Barbara is diverse. It's the Riviera of, it is. It's amazing.
I always have to tell people that My dad worked in a gas station. I was not the upper crust of Santa Barbara, but that was fun too, because I got to mingle and be with people I'd never be with.
See? Well, I think every experience adds to writing.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Even the really yucky bad ones experience.
We all like
I
the
think
villains.
especially those,
Yeah.
especially those ones, because the upper hoity-toity crust, so many people will never have that experience,
Mhm.
you know, and I think when you write the other side of the coin, that you're appealing to way more people who can identify.
Absolutely. And somebody asked me what would be the takeaway for the seer if I wanted a reader to get something from it. And it took me aback because nobody had asked me that question and I hadn't thought about it. But it really is that we're all fighting our own quiet inner battles and to cut each other some slack. Be kind.
That's good. Yeah.
We don't know what trauma people are going through. You know, some idiot cuts you off in traffic and you think, but who knows, maybe they've just
Mine doesn't sound like that.
Okay, right now
But
we're
you're
in
right,
Texas.
you don't know.
We're in Texas, and I just have to say that everybody cuts everybody off here.
With big trucks, with really big
and
trucks.
nobody uses their indicators
No.
at all.
No, see, now, but here's the thing.
See?
I agree with you, though. You
It's
don't know
true.
what's going on with someone's
Yeah.
life. You know, the ending taught us that people walked in stressed. It's like they were carrying double baggage, and when they left, they were carrying their clothes in a suitcase.
Oh,
And it was really cool to see that change happen.
Mhm.
And people had to kind of overcome things too. Like Nancy was talking about, everyone's in the same house, basically, right? And at breakfast, oh, we're going to connect. Do we socially distance? There's all those, vibes. And you want to know everyone's story. Nancy, it's like we get to serve people beer when they check in. We're going to sit down and listen, come on, bring it. But I think it's really cool, the amount of writing you've done and then, doing a sequel to it. So World War II, because when you think about San Diego, Southern California coastline was a hotbed of World War II history. So I can see how you transfer it over. It's there for sure.
Absolutely. And those were, we think of times now as being confusing and dangerous and politics and all sorts of things going on. But those times to me are fascinating because there was not the technology. Beatrix can't just sit down with her laptop and Google how to be a fake psychic. Yeah. She has to follow her intuition. She has to study it. She has to talk to people. And I think it makes the story a little richer, not having modern technology. And so that's one of the reasons I chose that time.
Okay, her name Beatrix. And I know I called her Beatrice earlier, but Beatrix, I will go Beatrix Potter's my first thing, But Beatrix, I find that interesting that suddenly Beatrice has an X at the end. I wonder how that happened in history. Just that I wonder if it became like
it's
how
bad,
how we slang
bad handwriting.
No, or slang, how things moved in. I wonder, or it's like, I'm Beatrix, I got a little dash of pizzazz. It's part of that, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of storyteller. Yeah, anyway, I just think that's interesting, the name that you chose.
Names are really important for characters, as I say when I'm teaching, that they say a lot about people. And yes, there is that little extra mystery with an X on the end of the name. And and I had chosen a different name for the character. And I'm really blessed. Debbie Maycomer, who's fabulously successful as a writer, has always been a friend, and she supports my writing, and I'm really blessed for that. And so she read a synopsis and said, I don't like this character's name. Yeah, a good friend can say that. And so I threw some others out, and then Beatrix just came to me with that X, and I knew I wanted to know her name.
That's so interesting,
So when parents name their child, do you think they expect the child to grow up to fit the name? Like they're naming them.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm always supposed to have the weird smile.
Yes, absolutely.
know.
I totally
I'm not
named her
pregnant.
after
That's
Mona
all
Lisa.
I'm telling you. I'm not pregnant.
No, I named her after Mona Lisa.
She did. She did.
Yes, I did. And then,
But I'm not
I
telling
know
you why. I'm
I was
smiling.
named after, was it, oh gosh,
Nancy with the
Nancy
laughing-
with this laughing face, a
That
song
is-
by
makes
Frank
sense.
Sinatra.
Yeah. So where do
Apparently
you
as a
think your
kid, I
name came
laughed a
from,
lot.
Eva? Because isn't that German?
Yes, actually. And I had grandmothers when I did my genealogy and dug into that, which was fascinating because.
Oh, that's
my-
getting some stories.
Yes, it was. And
I
my
bet.
paternal grandmother told us things that were so not true.
Oh, that sounds about right. Yeah.
That was but I've had a number of great grandmothers who were Eva, and my parents passed away when I was young, and grandparents way before that. So I never got a chance to ask them. So I just finally found out a couple of years ago why I put it in my name. Yeah.
Eva
No, that's-
must have been a popular name because my grandmother on my dad's side's name was Eva.
She's
And
German.
yeah, and when I started checking and getting birth certificates, there were some surprises in there. There's a generation
With
that
gaps.
Yes.
there's
Some
I call
lies
it-
and gaps.
they were creative. I'll say
Something went
that.
down. Something went down.
happened somewhere.
And World War II has some really, really fascinating, crazy history attached to it.
Yes,
There-
and I've added that in, and
Mhm.
I'm a student of history. I have a master's in psychology and a doctorate in religion and philosophy, but I love history. And when I found out some of the history by traveling in New Orleans and going to museums, World War II museum there is fabulous.
I was going to ask you about that. I want to
Oh
go.
my gosh, it's but I think it's better than the Smithsonian, but I'm a little
Wow.
prejudiced. I love New Orleans. But when I started finding some of that history, I knew I had to include it. Somebody said, did Beatrix really know Eleanor Roosevelt? And I said, this is a novel.
Yeah.
Beatrix is not real.
But you have to bring people into the story. That's what I think is so fascinating about what you can do with historical fiction is you can tell the truth, but bring people in. Like the characters are the story, but what happened, what went down is what went down. You know what I mean? So I think this is World War II. Like we just discovered that World War II in LA, it was post World War II that LA was working there was the military and the police force were working with the mafia against the Nazis.
No.
Yeah, that's a story.
And Nancy's family,
Yeah.
I push it all on her, has something to do with it all. So it's kind of crazy.
I know.
So there's all these things that came out of World War II. And I wonder, like World War I taught everybody like, holy cow, this can really happen. Like the world can go at war. Second World War is like, now we really mean it. And here we have Hitler and all of these Mussolini's coming out, all of these people, these crazies. And it was like, hell no, we're not doing this anymore. And then it ends. And it's like, whoa, okay. And I think there was such high emotions for everyone. Women came to the forefront with Rosie the Riveters and all kinds of things. I mean, there's just all of these things that happen and people fought side by side that you would never think would, you know?
It's a very interesting time. And if you look at current literature, current books, walk around a bookstore, there's a lot of interest in World War II now. And I think it's because that generation is unfortunately passing away. And maybe their stories can live on in books like The-Seer, in the other literature that's out there. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
Thomas, with him being part of, being Chinese, right? And then here it is with the racism starting. I mean, it's really true. World War II, it's like, the Japanese. I mean, you think about, and then it didn't that kind of like, I wonder about that era and then Vietnam happening, if there was a bleed through.
Yes, well, could very well be. It added another layer of conflict having Thomas be Chinese, because he always had to point out that he was not Japanese, and there was such a fear of the Japanese and of the Germans. And especially since there were actually U-boats and submarines in the Caribbean. And the US government was afraid of the Nazis getting a stronghold on the Panama Canal, which would have crippled North America.
Right.
And so there was so much fear going on in this beautiful city, this backdrop of a beautiful city. It made it more fascinating for me to do the research on it.
Well, you know what? Harbor cities always harbor good tales, period, you know.
I know my mom told me that when she was in school, young in school, people came in and took all the Japanese and Orientals. They didn't go, you're Japanese, you're Chinese. They just took all the Oriental children. Just one day, they just came in and they took all of them away. And they put them in camps. But of course, as a kid, she didn't know where they went. They just, all she knew was they took her friends away. Yeah, and with no explanation. And it, I mean, for kids, that had to be like, oh, when is somebody coming for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Scary.
It was a very scary time.
And we did that as Americans. We did that.
Yes, absolutely. And the book talks about that and some other illegal detainment programs that were happening at that time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
I'm glad you're doing a sequel. I know Nancy's going to be happy. It's my turn after she's done here. I know we've got a little dog crying in the background there. So sorry, everyone, but it's, you know, it's treat time. That's what's going on, you know. But I wanted to touch base on ghostwriting, what it's like to ghostwrite and have that relationship with the person that you're ghostwriting for versus writing your own. I mean, to me, that would be the ultimate of patience.
Well,
you know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm a really patient person. I was born with lots of patience and without an anger gene, I think. So I love my clients. I've never advertised, and I keep getting the best people ever to write.
That's awesome.
And so fascinating. I just love helping them. Being a ghostwriter, and I teach on this, is a lot like Jiffy Lube. I put in theory, change the oil on my little Ford Escape. I remember my husband doing it. You crawl underneath, you put the pan, you unsqueeze, you take the thing out, you say some swear words.
Yeah, because you bump your head.
Call me for that.
Yeah, but I don't want to. So I take my car to the Ford dealer. And when people hire me, it's not because they can't write. It's they know that that's a special craft and that I've spent years learning how to do it, and I make it easy and clean, and I try to make it a lot of fun for them. It's often tedious and not fun for me because I do a lot of drafts, but I want them to have a good experience. And I have thoroughly enjoyed every one of my clients.
That's awesome, because everyone has a story in some format somewhere. Everyone has a story. It's how to craft it and tell it. So it really does. Well, congratulations on your career. You rock, man. You really do. I'm so excited about it. It's like 100 books, like really.
That's so crazy.
And then all the teaching that you do, that's got to also keep you on your toes of just really being current. Teaching.
Absolutely. And I learned from my students, and they ask questions and I'm thinking, I don't know if I know that.
Yeah.
But let's find out together. I'm the first to say that. I also wanted to mention that 50% of my profits for the book go to an organization called Days for Girls.
I love this.
And it brings safe and sanitary products for young women all around the world.
I love this. Globally, it's so important.
And it is truly a bare bones organization. I know the founder. There's nothing is wasted. So Beatrix is a strong woman. She would support this. And I think we as women can support it together.
Right. When I was reading about that, I was one of my main things I wanted to bring up with you, because having, grown up in Africa and watched products not be available to people, a lot of people. And then also there are, cities, France has a huge tax, or had a huge tax on feminine products. So, and even in this country, it's, a woman's razor blade is going to be more than a man's shaving razor blade.
Yes.
The taxes that are going on women's personal products are absolutely insane and stupid. It's,
Yes. Wrong.
it's
Yes.
wrong. And I just want to say, you're born out of our,
And you know
reproductive
why?
system.
No, the reason is because for a woman, the powers that be, the companies know that you will go and you will pay for that razor. A guy will just say, I'll just grow a beard, screw it. That's the difference. And they know that. They know that, and they take advantage.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And this is such a good cause, and I'm so pleased and honored to be able to partner with them.
I love that. So 50% of the proceeds of the Seer
Proceeds, yes, go directly to them.
Okay, you got to bring her on a show. Honestly.
Honestly, she's an amazing. Celeste Mergens is one of the most amazing, giving, loving people. And she just started it because she was in Africa and she was doing some volunteer work. And she asked one of the girls, well, what do you do when you have your period? And they explained to her, they are just put aside. They stay in the room. They can't go to school. They can't learn a trade. They can't support themselves because they are women. So it's a humanitarian issue, not just a woman cause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Each country has it, or even each region in a country has something different happening for women in that regard, so I think
but there's always something happening in that regard.
There was one, I remember at one point some nonprofit did put in sanitary napkins in bathrooms in South Africa in one region. I knew that if it's a public bathroom, women could have access to that. Now I'm thinking, was that only for the white women though?
Yeah.
So you see,
Absolutely.
you got to think back when it was in those times, so.
Because don't forget the bathrooms were separated.
Yeah, exactly. Eva, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, the website, Eva-Shaw.com. That's SHAW, Eva-Shaw.com. The book again is The-Seer. Go get it. It is out now. And of course, thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We air daily now. So there it is. Okay. Thank you so much.